For decades, Texas has been the crown jewel of Republican strongholds, a sprawling state brimming with electoral votes, solid red for as long as many voters can remember. But the 2024 election cycle is throwing a curveball at conventional wisdom, and political analysts, journalists, and strategists alike are asking, is Texas about to turn blue? Once considered unthinkable, this possibility is now gaining traction with every new poll, campaign event, and grassroots mobilization. With the momentum behind Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz's joint campaign, a once predictable electoral landscape is being shaken up, and the winds of change are sweeping through Texas. The data is showing a shift, the enthusiasm on the ground is palpable, and the Democratic machine is throwing everything at the state in an attempt to flip it. Could 2024 be the year that Texas, of all places, turns blue? Let's dive into the data, the stories from the campaign trail, and what it could mean for the future of American politics. The changing tide of Texas politics. For much of modern history, Texas has been the heart of Republican dominance. It's a state synonymous with conservative politics, but the margin of Republican victories has steadily shrunk in recent election cycles. In 2012, Barack Obama lost Texas by 16 points. By 2016, Hillary Clinton narrowed the gap, losing by 9. And in 2020, Joe Biden closed it even further, with a loss margin of just 5.5 points. These trends tell a clear story. Texas is not the impenetrable Republican fortress it once was. One of the clearest signs of this shift comes from Senate polls by Morning Consult, showing Democratic challenger Colin Allred slightly ahead of incumbent Senator Ted Cruz. According to the poll, Allred leads Cruz 45% to 44%. It's a razor-thin margin, but one that has Texas Republicans rattled. Cruz, the firebrand senator who once seemed untouchable, now faces the real possibility of losing his seat. Allred, a former NFL player turned civil rights lawyer and U.S. congressman, has built a campaign rooted in pragmatic solutions and local values, resonating with a broad swath of Texans who are growing weary of Cruz's polarizing rhetoric. On the ground, the Harris-Walz campaign sparks energy. The momentum isn't just confined to the Senate race. The Harris-Walz presidential campaign has injected fresh energy into Texas politics. Vice President Harris's surrogates, including her husband Doug Emhoff, have been crisscrossing the state, attending high-profile events and galvanizing voters. Emhoff's recent visit to Texas included a viral appearance with former U.S. Representative Beto O'Rourke at a Whataburger, a quintessentially Texan experience that had social media buzzing. This wasn't just a photo op. It was a strategic play to connect with everyday Texans, showing that the Democratic ticket is serious about winning their votes. Beto O'Rourke, once a rising star in Texas politics after his near upset of Ted Cruz in the 2018 Senate race, has continued to be an influential figure in the state. Though his 2022 gubernatorial bid fell short, O'Rourke's progressive vision for Texas has only grown more popular, especially among younger voters. At a San Antonio fundraiser for the Harris campaign, Emhoff and O'Rourke raised over $1 million, the largest presidential fundraiser in the city's history. This kind of grassroots enthusiasm is something Texas hasn't seen for a Democratic candidate in decades. The Kamala effect, as some are calling it, is in full swing on college campuses, where young people are registering to vote in record numbers. Harris's appeal to younger voters, particularly women and people of color, is fueling a new sense of urgency and possibility. The vice president's campaign, along with Governor Tim Walz, has positioned itself as a ticket for progress, inclusion, and renewal, tapping into the frustrations of Texans tired of policies they believe are damaging their state. The battle for Texas in polls and policy. But what's really fueling this Democratic momentum in Texas? Let's start with the polls. Morning Consult's latest numbers show Harris leading Donald Trump by narrow margins in several key swing states, including Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, and Michigan. In Texas, while Harris trails Trump by just 1 point in most polls, 48% to 47%, the trend lines are undeniable. The gap is closing. Texas has become a battleground not just for presidential politics, but also for policy debates that have profound impacts on voters' daily lives. The state's hardline Republican leadership, led by Governor Greg Abbott, has come under fire for policies ranging from abortion bans to mismanagement during the state's catastrophic winter storms. Texans remember all too well the image of Ted Cruz fleeing to Cancun while millions of his constituents suffered in freezing temperatures without power or clean water. Cruz's infamous escape has become a symbol of Republican neglect, and Democrats are capitalizing on this failure. One of the most emotionally charged issues fueling Democratic gains in Texas is the state's draconian abortion laws. The tragic story of Amanda Zurawski, who nearly died because of Texas's abortion bans, has galvanized activists and voters alike. Zurawski's testimony before Congress, where she detailed how the state's restrictive laws almost cost her life, struck a chord with many Texans who feel abandoned by their state's leadership. "This isn't just a women's issue," Harris has said in response to the growing backlash. "This is about fighting for our families, for our future." Zurawski's story is just one of many, but it has become a rallying cry for Democrats looking to protect reproductive rights in the state. Can Texas Democrats ride the wave? While the momentum is real, flipping Texas is no small feat. Republicans aren't going down without a fight, and they still hold significant advantages in voter registration and turnout machinery. However, the Harris-Walz campaign, along with local candidates like Colin Allred, is investing heavily in the state. Senate Democrats have launched multi-million-dollar TV ad campaigns in Texas, as well as in Florida, signaling that they see these traditionally red states as winnable in 2024. One of the key dynamics at play in Texas is the growing urban-rural divide. Cities like Houston, Austin, and Dallas have become Democratic strongholds, thanks to an influx of younger, more progressive voters. Meanwhile, rural areas remain deeply conservative. The Harris-Walz strategy is to maximize urban turnout while making inroads with suburban and rural voters disillusioned with the current Republican leadership. Colin Allred's campaign offers a blueprint for how Democrats can win over these voters. His ad campaigns focus not just on attacking Cruz's failures, but also on showcasing his own Texan roots and values. A former NFL linebacker who played for the Baylor Bears, Allred is emphasizing teamwork, accountability, and sacrifice, values that resonate deeply with Texas voters. His story of growing up in Dallas, excelling in sports, and then leaving a promising football career to become a civil rights lawyer has endeared him to many Texans who are looking for leaders who will put service above self. Republican resistance and the Trump factor. Despite the clear Democratic momentum, Texas Republicans remain confident they can hold the line. Donald Trump continues to enjoy significant support in the state, particularly among rural and older voters. Trump's rallies in Texas draw massive crowds, and his campaign is betting that his populist, anti-establishment message will once again resonate with Texas voters in 2024. However, there are signs of fatigue among some Texas Republicans. The chaotic years of the Trump presidency, coupled with the state's ongoing struggles with issues like immigration, healthcare, and education, have led some voters to reconsider their loyalties. A growing number of Republicans are switching sides, like Brett, a veteran from Texas who voted for Trump twice, but now says he'll vote for Kamala Harris to preserve our democracy. Texas Republicans are also facing stiff resistance on the policy front. One issue that's gaining traction is the state's controversial school voucher system, which diverts public tax dollars to private, often religious institutions. This policy has become a major flashpoint in the race for local offices, with Democratic candidates like Desiree Venable gaining momentum by advocating for stronger public schools. The road to November. Can Democrats seal the deal? As we look toward November 2024, the big question remains, can Democrats seal the deal in Texas? The answer will depend on several factors, including voter turnout, the effectiveness of grassroots organizing, and how well the Harris-Walz campaign can navigate the complexities of Texas politics. What's clear is that the ground is shifting beneath the feet of Texas Republicans. The state that once seemed invulnerable to Democratic inroads is now very much in play. Colin Allred's race against Ted Cruz is just one example of how close the margins have become. The Harris-Walz campaign is betting that with enough effort, money, and voter mobilization, they can pull off the political upset of the century and turn Texas blue. For decades, turning Texas blue has been the Democrats' white whale, an elusive goal that seemed tantalizingly close but always out of reach. But in 2024, with a perfect storm of demographic changes, policy failures by Republicans, and the energy of a dynamic Democratic ticket, the Lone Star State might finally be ready to flip. Texas is at a crossroads. The 2024 election may well determine the political future of the state for generations to come. The numbers are tightening, the stakes are rising, and the battle lines are drawn. If Democrats can finally turn Texas blue, it would mark a seismic shift in American politics, potentially reshaping the electoral map for decades. But as Vice President Kamala Harris herself has said, never let anyone tell you what's not possible. Whether or not Texas turns blue in 2024, one thing is for sure. This is a fight that will go down in history.